is the stress awareness webinar for Unison's New Year, New You. I'm Richard Speight. I'm going to switch my camera off, and Karen Fisher is going to be our presenter for the day.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Yeah, just to echo what Richard said, really, welcome you all to our first in a series of Free Friday webinars. And these have been developed based on general feedback from the employers that we work with and the learners that we work with as well. It soon became evident that there was a lot of interest around the theme of well-being. And as such, we agreed to sample some of our full workshops that we offer through our lifelong learning projects. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. As I say, sample of our full workshops that we're able to offer, just to give you an opportunity to get a flavour really of some of the opportunities we provide. At this stage, I do have to emphasise that today's session and subsequent learning opportunities are funded by the Welsh Government through their Wales Union Learning Fund.
Karen?
Yes, Rich, yeah?
We just, can we keep the start time as past? So is it possible that you could put the link up for the Wolf form as our learners join the session? They'll be able to see the links that they need to follow. And we'll start at past as planned. If that's okay?
That's absolutely fine. Rich, if you could just take the learners through the Wolf process then, please, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, Karen, I'll do that just before past, okay? Because I think we've got 2 viewers at the moment, and we've got 2 people booked in. So I'll wait until we're up close to the 10, and then I'll give everyone the information at the same time.
Brilliant, that's really helpful. Thanks. So I think we're expecting a few more learners to join us. Past. And please don't take our silence as a sort of indication that we've disappeared. We are with you, but as I say, we're just waiting for the remainder of the learners to join us. They could very well be experiencing some difficulty in accessing the link at the moment. While we are waiting, however, as Richard mentioned, there is a link on screen now. And because our project is funded by the Wales Union Learning Fund, we are obliged to report on any activity that we organise, and we'd be very grateful for all participants today to follow the link that's currently on your screen, just to give your you know, where you're working, your name, that sort of thing. And that information will be stored securely and only shared for the purposes of audit should we ever be in such a position with our Welsh Government sponsors.
Okay, Karen, I'm just going to do little final checks on whether everything's working as it should.
Okay.
I think the video's playing live on YouTube as we speak, as we expected.
Oh, how exciting!
So at the minute we've got 2 viewers that are logged on that I can see, which is just going up now. So I think if we leave it a couple of minutes, let everyone get their sandwiches on their desk, whatever, and then we'll be ready to start in a moment.
Excellent, thanks, Richard.
So we're now getting close. We've got 5 people logged in at the minute. It's just gone up to 6. Like I say, I think we'll get up towards our the number of people we got registered slightly after past. So if we can just hold off the beginning. Everyone who is logged in, hello. I'm Richard Spate. I'm doing the technical side of this webinar today. If you can, if you've got a minute, if you've got the ability to open another window on your device, you could put the website address that's on your screen in there. It's also in the chat pane for the YouTube video, and in the description below the YouTube video, and in the email that I sent through to everyone over the last couple of days. And fill in the Wolf form while we're waiting. That would be really helpful for Karen and I in terms of reporting upon today's webinar and making sure the people who are paying us are able to see what we've been doing. Just had another booking come through, so we should be getting people involved over the next few minutes. We're past past, Karen, so I don't know if you want to bring the presentation back to the beginning and start up
Yes,
whenever you're ready.
Okay. Right, thanks, Richard. Again, just to extend a welcome to participants today. Tuning in, if you like, for the first of our series of Free Friday webinars. Richard and I decided to present this information in this format, which was based on general feedback from our employer partners and learners. It soon became evident that there was a lot of interest around the theme of well-being. And as such, we thought we would sample some of our full workshops that we run through our lifelong learning projects, Connecting Learners and DigiSkills Cymru. You a little bit more about both projects towards the end of the session, and also explain a little bit more about how you can access our full workshops in your workplace. But what we wanted to do today and for the next few Fridays is just to give you a flavour, really, of the types of activities and information you would receive if you were able to attend one of our workshops. Of course, own experience, the webinars themselves are equally useful. So if you are unable to attend one of our face-to-face sessions, you will still have the benefit of some of the information that we present today. Before I move on, I should add, very important, that our activity is funded by the Welsh Government via a funding pot called the Wales Union Learning Fund. It's a pot of money that's set aside for trade union affiliates and professional bodies under the umbrella of the Wales TUC, which is the organisation that oversees trade union activity in Wales. And our projects are one of 4 projects that's operated by Unison, the public service union. Supporting us today, you've heard him already, is Richard Spate. He's project manager at DigiSkills Cymru and expert in all things technical, and will be managing all the controls and also the social media activity arising from today's session. At some stage, I'm sure you'll hear him again on the microphone, and especially if tech fails us in some way, I will be shouting quite loudly for some assistance. Tutoring the session today is me, Karen Fisher. I'm project manager at Unison's Connecting Learners project, which covers the South West and Central Wales region. And I'm also supported by colleagues in North Wales and South East Wales as well. I will briefly hand you back to Richard, because I believe we've got all learners online now, and he's just going to take you very quickly through the learner form that we're going to ask people participating today to register. So if you could, Richard, just briefly explain what's required of our learners, please.
Yeah, hi there everyone, I'm Richard, I'm up in Bangor. If you can go to the link that's on the screen, which was also sent through to you all in an email before the session and is in the description below the video, so you can click it. If you can scroll down on your device to the description below this video, there's a link, direct link to this website, which is a Google form, and simply if you can just add your details in there, it helps us to report on this session to the Welsh Government and make sure that they know what we've been doing, and and they've got the information about the people who've been joining us today. So it should be nice and simple. If you want to wait until after the session to do it, that would be that's absolutely fine. Yeah, if there's any problems, if anyone's experiencing any problems with the session as well, I've sent you all an email directly from my email account over the last few days, so you can get in touch with me at any point. And also, Karen, if you want to move the presentation on one slide, you can contact us about today's session during the session or after the session on Twitter using the hashtag New Year New Unison, which is a very snappily chosen hashtag for today. But that's all you'll hear from me. I'm going to pass you back over to Karen now, and thanks a lot for joining our session, and I hope you have an interesting hour in Karen's company.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Yeah, just to reiterate what Richard just said, we've created the hashtag New Year New Unison. So if you are accessing from a smartphone or from a tablet, what have you, or you've got other windows open in the presentation today, the main sort of basis of the webinar will really be me talking at you. But as adult learners, that is not necessarily the best way to absorb information. And if we were to follow theories around adult learning, we would encourage people to take part. That's how we learn, yeah? Periodically throughout the presentation today, I will throw out a series of questions. And if you are logged on to Facebook or to Twitter, you can comment as those questions arise using the hashtag, which will feature below throughout. So it'll be New Year, New Unison, and you can comment as we go along. Okay. Well, I am here today, and why Richard's here today is we want to talk a little bit today about stress awareness. As I say, this is just a snapshot of a 3.5-hour workshop that we would normally deliver face-to-face in a classroom. But as I say, it just gives you an idea of what's involved. And if you were to attend the session at a later date, you would experience what we're talking about today in far more detail. Stress is an emotive subject. It's also a taboo subject. So, you know, what you hear today might be a little bit sensitive in nature. Be mindful as well, if you are going to contribute using the hashtag, be mindful that, you know, if you want to share personal information, it will be seen across the internet as well. So I would advise, you know, err on the side of caution. If you want to share information, you know, just be mindful who it might see it later. Of course, there's no obligation to disclose anything, so you participate as much or as little as you want to. As Richard mentioned, sit back and enjoy your sandwiches and just listen to what you have to say. Also, to be mindful of my boundaries professionally, I'm here today as a tutor, not as a mental health practitioner. So anything that is said and shared today should be taken on board. You know, it's no substitute for professional help. So in the space of this hour, I probably have to talk very quickly because we are at least going to define stress and consider what the ideal state is. Look at some statistics around the incidence of stress and around the prescriptions of antidepressant drugs. We'll at least look at some of the physical and mental effects of stress on our bodies, on our behaviours and our emotions. We will look at some triggers and sources of stress. We will have time to look at one very quick basic coping strategy. And as I mentioned, if you were to attend our full workshop, we would explore those in greater detail. And finally, to signpost to professional help. So looking at the big picture then, stress and mental health is now the #1 reason for workplace absence in the UK. Thinking back to when I first started in the world of work back in the late 80s, until quite recently actually, it used to be the bad back yeah, if people were off on long-term sick, it was usually because they had issues, you know, sort of spinal issues and things like sciatica and what have you. But now stress has overtaken that, and as I say, is now the number one reason for people being absent from work. Important here that we don't lay any blame attached to that. Yeah, it is what it is. If people are ill, then it's only right and fair that they take time away from the workplace. 1 in 4 people suffer. So when you consider we've got around a dozen people online today, it is possible that will have suffered previously, whether that be on quite a sort of short-term or to a long-term condition, and also are likely to suffer in the future. Now, what I'm working on today are reported statistics. So this is information that's been volunteered and recorded. It's quite possible that the statistics are higher. Yeah, because some people don't, because of the taboo nature of stress, they may not necessarily look to seek help or divulge that information. More likely in women than in men. I don't think I can elaborate on that any further. You know, that is what it is. 1/3 of carers are affected. And this is a sort of growing group now in society when you think that people are living longer and are therefore reliant on perhaps family members and friends to look after them. And significantly, a sort of young population of carers as well. That is really quite alarming when we look at the number of young people who have responsibility for the care of others. 4 in 10 employed people at some time will experience anxiety about their work. Be a passing stress about a short-term piece of work they have to do, or it could be quite more significant in that, you know, there's a long-term issue at play in their workplace. So for those of you who are able or are so inclined, I'm going to throw out a quick question. And if you want to sort of contribute using the social media hashtags, looking at the UK as a whole, so, you know, we've got England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and all of the counties that make up each of those areas, which area do you think has the highest percentage of individuals prescribed antidepressant drugs? Now, I'll just give you a few moments to think about that, and I'm not quite sure actually how Richard is going to capture this information, whether he's going to comment as whether he's going to sort of pick that up a bit later, I don't know, but if you do want to come in at this stage, Richard, and advise, that would be helpful as people are listening. Yeah.
Karen, yeah, I've got Twitter up at the minute and the chat pane on the YouTube video. I haven't had any comments as yet about this.
They're all being shy at the moment, Rich, are they?
But maybe people would like to share their thoughts on where you think the most the highest instance of antidepressants is. But yeah, with no comments as yet. People enjoying their sandwiches and maybe.
Oh yes, and just happy to listen.
And just while I'm talking, if anyone has joined us in the middle of the session and would like to get the full presentation, you can rewind the live video back to 10 minutes and 10 seconds to get back to the beginning of the presentation. We've got Maths and Laura on Twitter, who's just suggested that Wales is the answer.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one comment we've got so far.
That's okay. That's the start. Okay, I'll put you out of your misery then. There will be a great reveal. So actually, our friend Laura is right. If you look at the table there, this is the top 10 counties across the whole of the UK. And really significant years. And if you look at the first 1 to 7, they're all counties in Wales. Pausing to let you absorb that information. Yeah, quite scary statistics when you look at that, isn't it? Okay. So, what is stress? According to the Health and Safety Executive, stress is the reaction that people have to excessive pressure or other types of demand placed upon them. It arises when they worry that they can no longer cope. Words, stress is a physical response to a psychological challenge. Now, the slide or sort of quadrants you can see in front of it is known as the mental health continuum. And this describes the ideal mental health state. It's split into 4 and it's been color coded. And from my perspective, the best way I can sort of make sense of this, I tend to think of it along the lines of a traffic light system. And if you look at the top right hand side, the green section there, the ideal state that we should be aiming for is to be a person with no illnesses, so no sort of comorbidities or ailments, and also enjoying positive mental health. On the left-hand side, the yellow square, you'll notice that it's a person with a diagnosis of an illness, whether it be serious or otherwise, but they cope well with that illness, and they also have good mental health as well. Now, to me, I would say that's probably the most realistic of the quadrant, because at some point in our lives, we are going to experience, poor health, whether it be something quite short-term, whether that be a sort of virus or, we've got a problem with our knee or what have you. But we're still able to manage and we're still able to maintain a positive mental health as well. Now, the problems start on the bottom half of that matrix there. Right, we have a person with no diagnosis of illness and also has poor mental health. And the person with, associated illnesses and poor mental health as well. So it's these people in the bottom half, those are the people who are at risk and in need of support and professional help. And again, just to emphasise that in our sort of full session, classroom session of this nature, we would explore that in greater detail. But it's just to highlight really, what we're aiming for ultimately. So again, if you want to participate, just to throw out that question about the effects the stress has on us. Stress can have a significant impact on our physical health and mental well-being. And whilst it's often referred to as a hidden condition, there are clues that our bodies, our emotions and our behaviours give off just a little signal to yourself and to others that we might be suffering from stress. So again, I invite you, what sort of effects might you expect to see in an individual experiencing stress? And please feel free again to comment using the hashtag and the comments box. I'll just give a few moments again if you want to contribute, and then Richard will advise me when to move on.
Well, Karen, we've got Maths and Laura and Mark, who are both contributing on Twitter using the hashtag currently. Maths and Laura commented that they think that lots of people have stress and depression without seeking medical help due to the stigma of mental health issues. And Mark has commented that he's alarmed to see that Welsh councils are at the top of the stress league, and also that NPT council is 5th. They're going to take that to the employer, because I think Mark is involved in NPT council.
That's interesting, yeah.
On your specific question, not got any comments yet. On the YouTube account, Julie has contributed sleep disorders as one of the effects, which certainly one that lots of people experience in mental health and stress disorders, and the lack of concentration as well. Julie's also contributed, so thanks for that, Julie.
Yeah, great. Okay, So with that in mind, this is just some of the the physical effects that you might expect to see. Sorry, did you want to say something again, Richard? I was conscious that you were...
No?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so these are just some of the symptoms and manifestations that you might expect to see. Now, I must emphasize here that some of these indicated could be a sign of something else going on in the body. So, for example, somebody experiencing high blood pressure or palpitations, that might be indicative of another issue going on. Do you know what I mean? So, not for anybody to dismiss that merely as a symptom of stress. If you do experience such symptoms, it's worth having these checked out by a practitioner. Or just working around the diagram there, as our friends online have already indicated, you will have issues with mood and irritability, concentration problems, which came up on the social media feed. Circulatory problems, as mentioned there, blood pressure, fast heartbeat, increased risk of stroke and heart attack. Very often digestive issues manifesting, things like irritable bowel disease, that sort of thing, stomach cramps. Interesting also that the reproductive system is sometimes affected, so there can be issues concerning impotence and what have you. So muscles, again, not necessarily indicative only of stress, but things like issues around joint pain and tightness in the shoulders and things like that, yeah, and that sort of thing. Immune system also affected, so people feeling very low and run down, so may experience more colds and viruses as they would normally. Issues concerning the pancreas and stomach, which I think we kind of covered around the digestive system, and also skin conditions, bouts of psoriasis and eczema and things like that, and skin rashes. Just very briefly, just a few emotional and behavioural clues. Sometimes you'll notice people might have shaking hands, very quiet, not giving you eye contact, feeling quite remote and not really participating. Again, in terms of their behaviour, they may be visibly tearful, there might be some obvious signs. But interestingly then, the contrasts between somebody who becomes very quiet when experiencing stress, as opposed to somebody who might be talking excessively. And again, those conflicts between comfort eating and people who may not, might lose their appetite as well. Okay, so in order to manage, prevent and reduce stress, it is important to be able to look at it head on. Stress does not always come from one source. And Dr. Karl Albrecht, and I just noted his name at the bottom there for reference, he published his model of the 4 common types of stress. It was a 1979 book, so it's been knocking around for quite some time, but still very relevant. And the book, if anybody's so inclined, is called Stress and the Manager. He suggests is there are 4 common types of stress. So first of all, we have time stress, which is kind of self-explanatory. So you experience time stress when you worry about time or the lack of time. So you might have a deadline imposed on you in the workplace, and it might be a very strict and short-term deadline. So you may sort of, get into a situation where you have time-bound stress. Worry about the number of things you have to do. You fear that you will fail to achieve something important or miss something out. You'll feel trapped, unhappy, even hopeless. On the other hand, you have some people who have too much time on their hands. And this often triggers anxiety. So people have, excessive time on their hands. So they're worrying about things that might happen. So that kind of summarises time associated stress. And again, just to emphasise, that this is explored as quite a lengthy activity in our classroom workshop. But today it just gives you a little overview of what we would cover. So anticipatory stress. This describes the stress that we experience concerning the future. Sometimes the stress can be focused on a specific event, so perhaps somebody preparing for an exam. However, anticipatory stress can be vague and undefined, such as a general overall fear, dread of the future, or a general worry that something's going to go wrong. Situational stress. Now, this may occur when you're in a scary situation, and it's usually when you have no control over the situation. And this is very common in people who are frightened of flying, for example. They have no control over what's going to happen. Commonly, it's a situation that involves conflict and can also involve a loss of status or acceptance in the eyes of the group. So this can involve, for example, making a mistake within the team at work. And finally, there's encounter stress. Now, this normally revolves around people. You experience stress when you worry about interacting with certain people. So it could be a manager. So there might be a fear of their authority, for example. Or it could be an intimidating colleague. Yeah, somebody who's a little bit up in your face, yeah? And you think, oh dear, you know, what's going to happen now when you encounter them? You may not like them, or you're concerned that their behaviour is scary or unpredictable. In summary, are the 4 common types of stress. Now, there is a difference between stress and pressure. Pressure is part of life, and that includes the joys and the hassles. Pressure keeps us interested, it keeps us on our toes, you know, it keeps us alert and alive and involved. Intense or excessive pressure becomes draining and physically and emotionally. And this is when it tips over into something a little bit more long-term, it becomes stress. A good example of pressure is for planning a wedding. So there may be several challenges along the way. You know, thinking back to when I planned my own wedding 25 years ago, I might add. It takes time. It's something that happens over a long period of time. So you've got things like, you know, planning the venue, wondering who's going to do the wedding cake, and then, you know, you've got that worry about who's going to sit by who and which relative is talking to the other. So yes, there may be several challenges and highs and lows along the way, but ultimately the wedding takes place. It's an enjoyable occasion, and eventually the pressure passes. What I'm trying to say really is that, yes, you know, we will experience issues and setbacks in our everyday life, but it's when these sort of gather momentum and become a little bit more long-term, that is when it's indicative of a problem. It has been discovered that all of the many aspects of life can be reduced down to 6 factors. And if these factors become out of balance, then this indicates a greater potential of experiencing stress. So the first one, and we've gone for a very visual slide here, is control. So that's about having control of your thoughts, reducing worries, being focused on solutions, and having a say in how you arrange your life, your plans, your work, and your home life. Relationships, and that means spending time with people who energize you rather than those who drain all your reserves and leave you feeling empty. There are people that we work with. There are people within our families who can be very demanding on our time, for example. And being around those on a continual basis, as I say, you know, can be very draining. So it's knowing where your allies are, if you like, people who are positive and energetic, who will kind of lift you when you need that lift. Which links very nicely to support. Developing a strategy and developing a network of backup and encouragement. Someone that you're able to share your life and work challenges with. a critical friend, if you like. Then we're looking at your role in life. Throw out a series of hats. In our day-to-day life, we would take on different roles. So thinking from my perspective, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a project manager, I'm a member of my local church, I'm also a member of my local Labour Party. So, during the course of my life, I take on various roles. So it's about being aware of the role that I'm in at that time and managing the expectations associated with that role. Have our demands. Keeping the demands made on us on a manageable level is essential. And it's about improving our assertiveness skills and learning how to say no. And especially, when you're in a work situation or in a family situation, saying no to the people that rely on us is extremely hard, I know. Finally, change. I would say the majority of participants joining us today are working in the delivery of public services. And you will know that these last few years in public services have been very difficult in terms of change. However, being mindful that change is inevitable and constant is really important. But it's how we deal with that change is critical. I did promise you a coping strategy, a means of managing stress. And the avoid, alter and accept model is just a very basic model that we can at least apply. We've got at least one thing to take away with us today. And this is a concept that's been distilled from Buddhist principles. Buddhists believe that the universe is constantly changing and that suffering occurs when we try to fix things that are beyond our control. They believe that the more we embrace change, the happier we are. In reducing our stress, we should try not to focus energy on things that are outside our control, because stress can be caused by feeling disempowered and out of control. Feeling responsible for things that are not our responsibility. Trying to change or influence things that are out of our power and worrying about them is a key source of stress. Getting better at accepting the things we cannot change gives us less to worry about and reduces our stress levels. So we find ourselves in a stressful situation or encounter, and what can we do? And what this model suggests is that we ask ourselves 3 questions. What would happen if we avoided that situation? What could we do to alter it? Or, if we cannot avoid or alter it, can we find a way of accepting it? I'll explain. So here's a scenario, and again, feel free to comment as we work through this. And again, emphasising if we were in a classroom situation, this is usually a very lively discussion at this point, because our participants tend to explore each of the scenarios presented, and we apply each of the questions. So this is quite a common issue, actually, and some people are better able to cope with this than others. So I enjoy using Facebook. But lately, one of the users is posting threatening statements and it's really getting me down. So using those questions, can I avoid it? Can I alter it? Can I accept it? Okay, so hypothetically, what would happen if I avoided it? Well, I think the first thing I'd say is, do I have to? I enjoy using Facebook, so why should I avoid using it because of that person that's making those statements? There's no right or wrong answer here, because in some instances that will be the exact response. Some people will just avoid the situation completely. Can I alter it? I suppose it depends very much on who it is. I think if it was somebody that I had to encounter perhaps in the workplace on a daily basis, I might be reluctant to confront them. It could be that I could realistically have a conversation with them and explain how I feel. In which case, you know, the user might be completely oblivious to the effect it's having on me. And, you know, we may be able to work our way forward. Or can I accept it? Can I just say, well, okay, you know, what she's posting is offensive. I don't like it, but I choose to ignore it. At this stage, Rich, is there any comments that have been posted?
Hi, Karen. Well, we've been having quite a lively discussion in the chat pane on YouTube. Contributions from Debbie, from Jane Gebby as well, and again on Twitter from Maths and Laura, where we've been talking about some of the resources that are available to people in the workplace, the Wales TUC and GovAl guide to mental health in the workplace. I've posted up a link to a talk by Mark Williams, who's one of the founders of mindfulness-based cognitive behavioural therapy from up here in Bangor. His talk to the School of Life. People can learn more about mindfulness. Maths and Laura have commented recently that acceptance is possibly the hardest part of this. And earlier commented that time-related stress is a big problem as well, which was something you mentioned earlier on. So yeah, there's a lively discussion going on. I'd encourage anyone who hasn't, if you want to log into YouTube, you'll be able to comment if you're not already logged in. Although maybe save that until after as well, because it might knock you out of this video. Maths and Laura have just commented that social media must be a huge factor in stress and depression, particularly the idea of perfect life syndrome. And people do present themselves differently on social media than they do in the offline life. Jane has also commented on the YouTube chat pane that social media training is available through Unison. It's worthwhile and keeps people safe, and that's something that's available through both my project DigiSkills Cymru, where we run social media and digital responsibility training for public service staff, and specific one-day accredited course on cyberbullying as well. So you can get in touch with me and I can send you information about those if anyone's interested in organising those in their workplace. So yeah, there's a lot of discussion going on. It's nice to see all the interactivity. So if you want to get back to your presentation.
Well, yeah, great. Thanks, Richard. Okay. Yeah, just to echo what Richard said, really, isn't it? Social media is such a source of stress now for people, and I think in particular of young people, isn't it? You know, that we talk about cyberbullying and things like that. And when applying this principle of avoid, alter, accept, you know, it isn't as clear cut as it seems on the screen. There is no right or wrong answer. And this is why the sort of support networks, particularly the professional support networks that you've highlighted on the social media channels, are vital, really, isn't it? But at least this gives you at least a starting point, something to think about. Another scenario then, again, applying avoid, alter, accept. I used to go to bingo with my friend, but unfortunately she moved away. I started to play bingo online, and the amount of time and money spent started to rocket. It's now out of control and I don't know how to stop. Now, this is potentially a massive source of stress, isn't it? You know, this is a huge issue potentially here. Several things going on in that this person no longer has the company that she had before, so that alone is an issue in itself. And of course you've got this online habit, and which is now starting to spiral out of control, so this person finds themselves in a situation. where she really, or he really needs some support. So again, working through that scenario, I won't go through it in detail, but asking yourself, if I avoided this situation, what would happen? Looking at the scenario, it really is quite important, isn't it, that in this instance they probably don't avoid it. If this person is experiencing difficulty in terms of controlling their expenditure, avoiding the issue is not going to make it go away. It's likely to escalate it. So we're looking at the alternatives, what can she or he do to alter it or accept it. So it's just to remind you really to apply those 3 questions. Okay. The review of the most up-to-date evidence suggests that building the 5 following actions into our day-to-day lives is really important for well-being. And the first is connecting with people around you, with family, friends, colleagues and neighbours, whether that be at home, in work, school or in your local community. Think of these as the cornerstones in your life and invest time in developing those connections, because building these connections will support and enrich you every day. And I think of my own personal experience there, and going back a few years now, back to as far as 2005, that I went to a Spanish class. And the social network that evolved from going to those classes every week. We'd meet as a group of friends, we'd go for coffee, we'd go for something to eat, almost like those spin-off benefits, yeah? You're making those connections, you're talking to people, you've got people that you can link in with. Now the next one in the middle, oh goodness me, I mean, this looks like there's a bit of physical activity going on there with the lady with her hula hoop. And I'm probably the last person in the world that should preach on being active. But there is evidence to suggest that embedding some physical activity into your day will help in terms of managing stress levels. So it doesn't have to be anything sort of, really sort of over the top physical. I'm not suggesting that you go off and run a half marathon, but even if it's going for a walk, stepping outside on a lunchtime, having a little stretch and what have you, but discovering that physical activity that you enjoy. It's no good joining a gym if you know you're going to hate it, Yes, lovely sunflowers there. Being curious, catching sight of something beautiful, remarking on the unusual, whether it be noticing the change in the seasons, just being aware of the world around you. I think again of an experience that I encountered. Richard and I both travel a lot in the nature of our jobs, and I was down in Carmarthenshire recently, and I just, on the way back to the car, I popped into the local church there and just sat there quietly for a few minutes. I appreciate that's not always easy. It depends very much on the jobs that you do. But it's taking that time off, to notice what's going on around you, yeah? At the bottom, you can see the bookcase there. Keep learning. Richard and I would say that, being managers of lifelong learning projects. But trying something new, rediscovering an old interest, signing up for a course, setting yourself a challenge that you will enjoy achieving. And as I said earlier, it's expanding social networks as well. There are spin-offs from learning as well. And finally, giving. By that I mean doing something nice for a friend or for a neighbour. Thanking somebody in the course of our work. We can be very much bogged down by the negative aspects of what's happening in our workplaces at the moment. And I think sometimes we tend to forget the value of other people's contributions. So just saying thank you, isn't it, for somebody's cooperation or support at the end of the day. Also links to volunteering as well. Joining a community group, giving something back, it's another way of boosting your well-being. Okay, so as I said earlier, I am not a stress practitioner. Richard and I are both tutors and learning practitioners. So it's very important that you seek professional help if you find yourself in a situation that the pressure that we talked about earlier, the tipping point is shifted into a more long-term stressful issue. Now, the statistics I displayed at the beginning, they're accurate, or at least accurate as they can be. You know, the bigger picture is probably worse than what I presented. So it's likely that amongst us all today as a group that somebody's already encountered stress. Problems can be solved in a straightforward way. So that might be talking to a member of your family or to a close friend. Of course, that's assuming that they are not the source of the stress in the first place. Your line manager, again, if it's a work-related issue, they may be able to help. They may be able to nip the issue in the bud and stop it from escalating. I mentioned at the start that our projects are sponsored by Unison, the Trade Union for Public Services. So again, if you have workplace difficulties, your trade union reps, your shop floor representatives and officers are really well placed to advise you and can also represent you if you find yourself in difficulty, if you find yourself in a position where you might be facing disciplinary action. These people are trained to advocate on your behalf and take that stress away from you. They are there to support you. Added there, mental health champions is something that our union is developing at the moment, and I will touch on that in a second. But we are aiming to develop a network of mental health advocates to support you in the workplace. Many workplaces will operate schemes like a well-being through work scheme, whereas you can access resources online, or you may be able to organise or contact a helpline, so you can talk through problems with people. So it's worth checking out if your workplace operates such a scheme. More likely than not, you will have an occupational health department, especially those joining us today from local government or NHS workplaces. So you have people there that are able to support you. And of course, you know, I'm stating the obvious there that there is access also to your general practitioner through your local surgery. So just to sort of tie things up really, I mentioned earlier that we are organised through Unison, the Public Service Union. We have 1.3 million members across the country. I'm not going to spend great detail on this particular slide, but I wanted to dispel myths really associated with the union, that we're not there to cause trouble and to get everybody out on strike. We are here to sort of maintain efficient services to support people in their employment, and also to help them, as I say, you know, tackle stress, and also additional member and learning benefits as well. We do also have an exclusive registered charity called There For You, where members experiencing financial and emotional difficulties can contact people for extra support. There For You provides confidential advice and support for members and their dependents. And some of the areas where we can support you through this particular charity is that we have things like a universal credits and tax credits calculator. We can provide financial assistance through times of hardship. So using an historical example, I remember a member whose cooker broke down very close to Christmas. They didn't have the means to replace it. So in the interim, the Unison There For You charity was able to provide some financial support to help that particular member. We also provide things like well-being breaks. So, for example, a member who was on long-term sick was able then, because there was a reduction in wages, this person had been off longer than 6 months, so they were on half pay, they were able to take themselves and their family down to our holiday park, Unison holiday park down in North Devon in Croyd Bay. So the whole family were able to benefit from a little break, getting away from it all, and that was met through the union as well. We have deadline support. and things like fuel assistance, so winter fuel assistance, and also grants for school uniforms as well. So the link is there at the bottom of the screen. So as members of Unison, it's well worth having a look at that. It is a benefit that many people know nothing about. Again, going back to the previous slide, we tend to think of our trade union as only being there when we get into trouble, so very well worth exploring the There For You charity, particularly, in terms of supporting stress. As mentioned, we are developing a network of mental health champions. So if you are so inclined or you're interested in accessing training for that, I would recommend you contact Carmen Bazina, who is the lead in Wales for this particular work stream. And I've noted Carmen's email address there. So by all means, talk it through, no obligation, but have a chat with Carmen about how you might support others in the workplace. Just a number of very general links and resources, and going on what Richard has just mentioned, I noticed that many of you have contributed other resources through the social media feeds as well. So it may be a job for Richard and I to sort of collate all this now at the end of the session, and perhaps we can summarise and forward that to you all, again noting some of the useful links and resources. So you have sampled just a very brief taster of the workshops that are available through the Unison projects, through Connecting Learners, and also through Richard's project DigiSkills Cymru. Just to remind you, we do run a 3.5-hour stress awareness workshop, and that is fully funded for people working in public services. So how that works is that an employer or a trade union branch would approach our project and ask us to set up this activity in the workplace. We would identify and pay for the tutor to come along and deliver the session. And as I mentioned, it's available to people working in public services. Because we are funded by Welsh Government, the activity is open to non-union members as well, so I must stipulate that. As well as the stress awareness session, we're also able to run mindfulness programs. So these are more practical workshops exploring the theories around mindfulness. And these again are run in very much the same way. We would commission our mindfulness practitioner, a gentleman called Gareth Clode, who is a national expert and practitioner in the field of mindfulness. And he will come to your workplace and talk through the theories and then work you through the practical elements. So you will have the opportunity to try it out if you like. Again, to trigger that activity, my details are at the bottom there. Just give me a call or drop me an email. And we would be very pleased indeed to help you with any learning needs that you might have. Another 3 sessions in the series. So we've looked at stress today. Next week, we'll be looking at coping with change. Very pertinent in terms of public services at the moment in what's going on. And I think there are more changes likely in the next few years, particularly as we will challenge, the challenges associated with us leaving the European Union. So, well worth tuning in to look at how we might cope with change. Then the following week, we're looking at our skills. So looking at our skills and attributes, our strengths and our weaknesses, and how we can work around those. And finally, the last session in the series is going to be around the theme of creating your personal brand. So thinking about how you would like others to see you, building you a personal reputation. And Richard will make a contribution in that session because he will look at our social media presence and consider how people see us online. Before I hand you back to Richard, I would just like to note some of the references really where we've got our information from today and our statistics. that is all for now, actually, other than to say thank you all for tuning in. And Richard will remind you again of the registration process, because we do need to collect a little bit of information for our Welsh Government funding body. But from my perspective, all I can say is thank you very much for it in today. And we would also, using the hashtag New Unison, would welcome any feedback as well. So ahead of the next 3 sessions, what we could do to improve the sessions. So I will just hand you back to Richard to talk you through the learner form, and look forward to catching up with you again at the next session in the series. Diolch yn fawr.
Hi there, Karen. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you for the presentation. I learned a lot from it as well. Yes, if everyone who has viewed the presentation either live or on the recording of this, because there will be a recording available and circulated after the webinar is finished in a moment. If everyone could go to the website that I've posted on both on the description, in the chat pane on YouTube, and you got in the email from me over the last couple of days. Those of you who registered through the Eventbrite, you'll have received an email from me with this link. If you could fill that in, that would be fantastic. It will take you to a web form. It will take you 2 minutes to fill that web form in. Probably might actually even help if I show you that on your screen now. I'll try and share my screen now with you. If I share my screen with you, that might help. It's a really simple form. It's nice and easy to use. It's a Google form, and yeah, you just add your name, contact details. If you let us know if you've completed the form before. Some of you I know have been our learners on other courses. Even if you have, please let us know. And then if you can agree to the Welsh Government's privacy terms, we'll keep your details between us and the Welsh Government, and not share it with other people. We work in line with the Data Protection Act. But I would like to thank everyone who's joined. I hope it's been an interesting afternoon's learning for you, and please join us again next week and spread the word to your friends and colleagues. Anyone can view this on YouTube through their devices, through their smartphones or tablets, or from a laptop or a desktop computer. All you need to do is register with the links that have been sent around and are on the chat pane. If you can register through Eventbrite, that would be great. It helps us with our stats and communicating with everyone and making sure we know who is with us. But thank you very much to everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast now, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.